All right, welcome to the inaugural episode, or what have you, of my movie with Jacob. I am the titular Jacob, and today I am joined with Brendon.
Hi, I'm Brendon.
Who is a big Transformers fan. I think you're the only person I know who has an actual Transformers tattoo on them.
Yeah, you gotta keep it real.
Anyways, we saw the Bumblebee movie, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. You know, as unfortunate as is, I want to talk about the Michael Bay Transformers movies, and then if you want to talk about the animated movie, or because you're a big fan of the original series, obviously, and the toys and comic books. Right?
Yeah. I'm mostly into the toys and comics, but I know quite a bit, and I've seen several of the older series. The Bay movies I don't know much about besides the first one. I haven't seen like half of them, and the other ones I've only seen once.
Which is fine, but I think it's important to distinguish, you know, between fans of like the original era Transformers and then the newer movies. We're gonna need to do some myth busting about the original Transformers movies. Like, if you like them, that's fine. Whatever, it's not really my cup of tea. But some people have this idea where, okay, the first one was good, and then the sequels got stupid. But I have to say the first one is just as bad as any of them. We have this terrible humor in these poorly shot action scenes, and that's what really gets me is people think they're good action movies. They're like, oh, I can just enjoy the action scenes.
No, from day one, I couldn't even follow the action scenes.
Yes, they're so shot and edited poorly, and all of the Transformers look just chrome and metallic. They all look the same.
They all look the same, and you can't even like tell where their arms and legs are.
Yes, like where one begins and where one ends when they're fighting each other. Which is weird because I've seen a little bit of the cartoons and everyone is very distinct looking.
I mean, the 80s designed ones are kind of outdated, but they are all very iconic, and you can tell at a cursory glance who each character is.
Right. Which is one of the things that this new Bumblebee movie gets right. Everyone is distinctly, you can tell Bumblebee is yellow. You can tell the two main villains are red and blue, and we have some shots of Cybertron, and you can tell who each of those.
Yes, I was very happy with that part of it.
Even me, who's not that big of a fan, I could tell who was who for the most part. So that's definitely one thing this new movie gets right. So did you want to talk about the 80s movie or anything?
I don't have a whole lot. It's a straightforward 80s action movie, which I guess these are supposed to be like straightforward modern action movies. The characters' decisions made sense, and there's not very many humans in it. The story is not driven by the humans. It is about Transformers. I think they handled that part really well, which is something the modern movies have not been able to handle well.
Sure. All right, so let's just go ahead and get right into it. So the main character is played by Hailee Steinfeld, who is a pretty fantastic young actress. I first remember seeing her in True Grit, the Coen Brothers remake. So she's really good. You got John Cena as this military character who is just
Yeah, he was there.
And that's one of the problems is all of the human characters outside of the main one are just kind of incompetent.
Oh, yeah.
We have these stupid military characters, the weird family members.
Memo was pretty decent. It was okay. He's the love interest.
Oh, okay, yes. We have the quasi-awkward love interest who keeps trying to talk to Hailee Steinfeld, and she's just ignoring him. And this is one of the problems with the movie. Like you said, the 80s movie is more focused on just the Transformers, and the Michael Bay movies and this new one, which is directed by Travis Knight, are so focused on the human characters. And I don't know that they really add anything to the story.
I think they do, as in they are the story, and the Transformers just kind of happen to be there. Bay early on said something about how it was to give the audience someone to relate to. But the older series gave you someone to relate to in the Transformers by making them not look like blobs of metal, gave them distinct faces and attitudes and character, and that gave you someone to identify with. And they almost did it with Bumblebee. And like at the beginning,
they did.
And he started off talking, and it was great. I liked his voice. I don't think it was someone who's done Bumblebee before, but it worked with the character. He was definitely overall, even when he wasn't talking, more relatable than he was in any of the other movies.
That's one of the weird things about it is they try to frame this movie as a prequel to the Michael Bay movies, but then they kind of go off course. It seems like the point of having Bumblebee not talk is because he didn't talk in the Michael Bay movies. But if we're not following that, then why do we need to have him not talk?
They said reboot, but what they meant by reboot was redoing the style and not rebooting the story. They talked about this after the movie came out.
Oh, okay.
I feel like they just lean on Bumblebee not talking. The plot was basically driven by Bumblebee not being able to explain why he was there, who he was, what he was, and every scene with that, like of Haley Steinfeld trying to figure out what Bumblebee was saying, it felt weird to me, forced.
Sure, but in their defense, they did give kind of a reason for it. He gets injured.
That is true.
Early on in the movie, and then so you assume that's the reason as to why he's, acting kind of like a kid.
Yeah. Still
annoying, but at least there's a reason for it. That it almost gets close to achieving what it wants. Like, it almost gets close to achieving this 80s, feel-good style. And the action scenes are not great, but at least they're decent, which is more than you can say for the Michael Bay films, is you can see what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
And especially in the beginning, it was pretty cool seeing the Transformers fight.
I did like that opening scene. Doesn't really seem to add anything to the movie, but it was nice, I guess.
But the problems, once again, I think, are with the humor and the characters. Like, there are even jokes in this movie that should work. Like, there's one that was in the trailers where John Cena's character is like, their names are literally Decepticons, like, we shouldn't trust them, which is kind of fun little, like, jab at kind of the corniness of Transformers.
Yeah.
But the way he delivers it in the movie doesn't really work.
This isn't really playing off the humor, but just the plot. The military, the highest military in the world, points out to each other, hey, they're called Decepticons, we shouldn't trust them. And they're like, nah, we gotta trust them. And just like, why? How can...
It's pretty forced.
Like, you have to have paperwork, you have to have 3 different pieces of mail to get a driver's license with your address on it. And they're gonna trust these robots with guns saying they're Decepticons?
We found a plot hole in the new Bumblebee movie. Who would have thought? But that leads into another point about the 2 main villains who are fine, I guess, but their story is just so predictable. You know exactly where it's going to head.
Yeah.
That it was just, okay, you just watch it unfold before you, and you know every beat before it happens, essentially.
And those characters, they're triple changers, which is when they have 2 different vehicle modes. And I was so excited when I saw that. And then they don't take advantage of it in the action scenes. They basically just do it to drive 20 feet and then fly. They drive, turn to a car, go 20 feet, turn into a jet, and fly away. And it's just silly.
Why would you need to do that? But can you think of any examples in the other mediums of how they could have used the triple changers to more effect, I guess?
Yes. So let's see. In Transformers Animated, which launched around the time of the original Bay movie, very like stylistic, hence the name Animated, there was a triple changer that was a jet and a tank. He would use his jet to get into the air, get advantage up there, shoot from there. When he needed more firepower, he would turn into the tank as he was falling, shoot, land, and just kind of like run over stuff and then get back into the jet to fly away instead of just using the tank as a means to get speed and fly.
And they don't give any sort of characterization to these villains. Like, one likes killing humans, and that's it. That's the whole joke. He's just like, ooh, I like the way the humans die. That's his whole character.
And then the other one's a girl.
Yes.
And that's her character.
So honestly, I would really just like to see this would be super expensive and it would never happen, but just a giant CGI film of only Transformers. Which I can get how that would get kind of old, but if you did it right, if you did it stylistically, because people are embracing all kinds of just, CGI-filled movies now.
I mean, honestly, we can just animate it. I mean, Into the Spider-Verse did very well. I really like the art style, which, I mean, they did talk about doing an animated Transformers movie, but I think it doesn't need to be CGI.
Sure. I think that would look kind of cool. And I
would.
think that'd be more for the fans, I think, than anything. But yeah, doing an animated would be the cheaper route. And it's also weird they feel the need to shove human characters into it when we have Pixar movies where it's just toys or it's just fish or it's just monsters. We don't need... You just make the character... You just humanize whatever you have. They don't have to be literal humans. Human beings are capable of all kinds of empathy. We don't need to have these...
Especially with the newer designs actually, like, you can see their faces as compared to the other Bay movies. Really drove me crazy. The scene where Bumblebee gets into Haley Steinfeld's house and is destroying everything. They have done that in every single movie. And it's just...
It's true.
We get it. Transformers are big. We live in a small world. Like, we get it.
They did repeat a couple things from the other Transformers movies that were a little unnecessary. So why did they ever have... Because he was a Camaro in the Michael Bay movies?
Yes.
So why make that happen?
In the original series, he was a Beetle. It's been some version of a hatchback quite often, but especially since the Bay movies come out, he's basically been in, like, generic muscle cars. But he keeps the Bumblebee name, I guess, because he's yellow and black and small and cute, can fight, I guess.
Fair enough.
I did really like the new design, though. It was the original vehicle. They kept, like, the style of it, but they completely changed, like, the look. It was a new design. They made it still iconic, I think.
Everything about the Transformers in this movie looks much better than they did in the older ones.
Oh, for sure.
That's definitely one thing it does right. This movie reminded me a lot of The Iron Giant, where you have this, human character trying to keep this giant monstrosity a secret from everyone. It reminded me in several different points.
I also thought that too. It did kind of play at your heartstrings in that style, I guess.
Or it tried to.
It tried to, yeah. It didn't quite hit it.
One thing I want to say about this movie, it kind of annoyed me. It wants to be like a classic 80s movie, but it went so all in with all these 80s songs and 80s references, and it was like, hey, like, it feels the need to point out, like, hey, this is the 80s.
Yeah, I got that too. They brought up Alf and, like, every other 80s thing they could think of just for the sake of bringing it up. It's like punching you in the face with, hey, this is set in the 80s.
A movie actually made in the 80s wouldn't need to do that.
Exactly. I think...
to that extent. You can just say, it came up on the screen like 1987 or whatever year it was.
Yeah.
Like, that's enough. We know it's in the 80s.
The It movie handled that very well, I think.
Absolutely.
With it being set in the 80s, but not, like, in your face about it.
Sure. So before we get into kind of spoilers, as a Transformers fan, or even just in general, would you recommend people watch this movie?
I'd say it's worth a watch. It's getting closer to what makes Transformers special, but it's still not there. Maybe they'll get there someday. I've kind of given up hope, but I did get excited about this movie before I saw it, so.
I will say it's definitely better than a lot of the blockbusters of this year. It doesn't come near Avengers Infinity War, but it's better than Jurassic World or something like that.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a fun movie you can take the kids to also, I guess that's another bonus. So we're gonna just go ahead and spoil everything now. So if you haven't seen the movie and you actually care about it, I guess stop listening. So Haley Steinfeld's whole character arc is her dad recently died, and her mom got a new husband or boyfriend or what have you, and she's still not over it. She used to be this champion diver, but now she can't dive anymore that her father is gone. And at the climax of the movie, we have Bumblebee in a fight. He just defeated one of the triple changers, and then he beats the other one by blasting open this dam, and they both get swept away underwater. So Haley Steinfeld, of course, has to dive into the water from the top of this tower she's on. Her character arc being fulfilled is now she's able to dive again.
Well, you see she can't dive earlier on because this muscular high school dude is diving off the cliff, and he encourages her to dive too, and then she can't do it because it reminds her of her dad or something.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing about Haley Steinfeld's character. She has the worst life in the world. She doesn't have a car. She works at this crappy fast food joint where she spills things on people.
That same muscular dude who asked her to dive.
Yes. She spills food on, the cute, muscular boy, what have you.
And then, like, the popular girls pick on her, but she's not ugly enough for it to be, like, believable.
So what you're saying is they should have made her more ugly? Is that what you're advocating for?
Or just, like, not done the whole high school clique thing, I guess.
The popular girls make fun of her by saying, like, her dad's dead. Like, that's pretty messed up. Like, haha, your dad's dead. Like, what?
Maybe,
Jesus.
Maybe if they were middle school characters, I would buy that.
Sure,
but
sure. I mean, I wasn't alive in the 80s, so
That
maybe
is
that
true.
was a common insult. Like, when someone's parents dead, it's like, ha, egg on your face, loser. They just showed up at the burial and just beat the crap out of them while they were crying in the back. So, would you give this movie your seal of approval? The Brendon / Transformers fan seal of approval?
Probably not, but I think if they, for some reason, keep making these movies, which it seems like they're going to, if they continue in this direction, they might get better. So it's a good turnaround. It's a good starting point.
Which I believe I heard that they were rebooting the franchise after this. This would be like the last one, because I thought it was supposed to connect more to the Michael Bay ones, but after this they were going to like kind of reboot it.
I heard something about an Optimus Prime solo story a la Bumblebee, but I don't know if I care about enough Optimus Prime, care about him enough, or if that's going to be like a reboot or not.
I mean, if they keep making money, they'll keep making them. So who is your favorite Transformer? Or Decepticon, Autobot, whatever?
Probably Soundwave, who does make an appearance in this movie. They did not get the original voice actor, which is interesting because they've been using him as Megatron and Soundwave in the other live-action movies. But he was like a 2-minute cameo, so...
In summary, Bumblebee, better than Michael Bay movies. Still not as good as you would want it to be.
Yep, pretty much. If you want some good Transformers media, the 80s movie is good. Very, very heavily 80s. And then also there's Transformers Prime, which has some of the look of the Michael Bay movies, but more coherent and has an actual good story. And Transformers Animated, if you're a little younger and can put up with the more childish shows.
Good advice. So you said earlier that Transformers, is special to you, obviously. So what makes Transformers special to you?
My main interest is in the toys. I like to see how they transform, like see where the pieces go, see what interesting mechanisms they can come up with. And as far as the show goes, I mean, it's just cool watching robots fight. I was given the 80s movie when I was like 3 on VHS, and it just kind of blew my mind, and I've pretty much just stuck with it since then.
Fair enough. It is cool to see giant robots fight. All right, well, thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Brendon, for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me to this.
All right, this has been My Movie with Jacob, and we're out.
Peace.